Monday night, Real Talk Weekly. We are back. Alrighty, guys, welcome back to another Monday night Real Talk Weekly with myself, Thomas Sims, and Billy Drury beside me from Novak Properties. And tonight we are talking about buyers that have the power.
We're going to have a stern talk tonight about buyers in the marketplace. I think in some cases there's like a confidence out there in the market at the moment that they may be the only buyer. So, well, I'm finding that it's flipped the script a little bit. We came from a market 6 months ago where buyers were competing against competition. They knew that they'd have to, move quickly, otherwise potentially miss out. And at the moment, it's funny, when you remove that competition, people start second guessing their own actions and doubting whether they're making the right decisions. And that then leads to overthinking. And all of a sudden, it is paralysis by analysis. So we're going to talk about it tonight. Do buyers have the power, and unpack it? Well, what are the smart buyers doing?
Well, the smart buyers are definitely getting in early. They're definitely the first ones there at the open home. They're seeing properties first. They're on the off-market and pre-market lists, where they're seeing properties before realestate.com and Domain have the properties. And it's a smart thing to do because they're getting the first glance. They're ahead of all the buyers. They're already one step ahead.
I've just found it so interesting. Like, in a hot market, no one's talking about the price or focused on the price. They're just paying it as if it's monopoly money. It's like the highest offer wins, and an agent can just sell anything, just list it and it sells. But when the market turns and softens a little bit, price is not the only currency. And people go, well, what do you mean? Every owner wants the most amount of money. Absolutely, they do. But speed is a currency. Certainty is a currency, convenience a currency, and flexibility is a currency. And you package that up together, and all of a sudden you've got buyers that cut through the competition really quickly based on those three things or four things: speed, convenience, flexibility, and certainty. And so we're going to talk about that tonight, I guess, in sort of four sections. But like, speed's a massive one at the moment. I'm finding there is a hesitation in the market, and price is obviously at everyone's focus, but hesitation. Let's unpack it.
Yeah, I agree. And we all know now that we're in what's called a falling market. Prices have dropped just in a matter of a couple of months. So now vendors, the smart vendors in the market, are understanding that the first offer they're receiving are often the best offer that they'll have. Now, that's very important, and we have many properties that have been on the market for quite some time. They had offers a couple of months ago early in the campaign that are now levels above what they're receiving now.
Yeah, and whilst we're going through tonight's talk, we're going to give you like some examples of the buyer dialogue we're having, and hopefully if you're a buyer, you can listen to some of this dialogue and think about, how can I improve my questions and how can I improve the conversations I'm having with the agent, because the agent is the eyes and ears of the owner. So hopefully if you can have better conversations, you get better cut through to the properties you really like. I mean, the conversations I have with a lot of buyers that are, I think, a bit green or a bit hesitant is, they'll say, we'll think about it, or we'll come back to you next week. Imagine coming through as a buyer and saying, if that offer's accepted, we can exchange this afternoon. Now you've got my attention. That's speed. Yeah. That's certainty.
100%. You've got the vendor's attention as well. It gives them the confidence. You're kind of giving off the confidence that you have internally to the vendor.
Yeah.
So if you like a property, don't bother about waiting until next week.
It's the same message.
Yeah.
Or sometimes the same, you're delivering the same message. So it could be, look, we're not quite aligned on price, but if it was accepted, I can exchange this afternoon, versus we'll think about it. So that's the first one. There is a value on certainty.
There is. There really is. Go on there. Go on.
Second one is, you're sort of trying to reduce your hurdles and reduce problems. Don't create them. I'll give you an example. I've made some notes this evening.
Yeah. I've got one just now off the top of my head.
Go on.
With certainty, be clear. I mean, obviously, you might meet some real estate agents that aren't as transparent, but personally, I like to transact with full transparency. Let the agent know. And some of the buyer dialogue I've heard over the last few weeks is, I've got my finances ready, or I don't have my finances ready. But at least you're letting us know where you're at. So in that case, I mean, am I thinking in the back of my head, are you willing to put an offer in today? Oh, no, because your finances aren't ready. Maybe they'll be done by the end of the week. You may know that, may not. But if your finances are ready to go, that's one of the best lines you can actually tell an agent if you're interested in the property.
Yeah, you can set up the expectations. A question like, how can I make this easy for the vendor? Can I look at settlement, exchange? Can you look at what follows happens after settlement, release of deposits, all those sort of things? That's really powerful. So again, I guess we're answering the question: do buyers have the power? Well, yes, they do until they don't. But this is the way you can, I guess, double down on your power and get the cut through.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. A lot of buyers as well let your agent know, my property's on the market at the moment. It's been on for a few weeks.
Yeah.
I need to sell a property, but I have a deposit to put down. I can buy before I sell, or I need my property to sell before I can put an offer forward and buy a property and put a deposit down. That conversation is really open and allows the agent to actually go to a vendor on your behalf and say, hey, these guys need to sell, or they're waiting on their property to sell. They're on the market. So the settlement might be a bit longer than your standard 6 weeks, or they've sold. They can settle simultaneously with their sale. That's in 4 weeks' time, 5 weeks' time. It's a great conversation to have with your agent if you are interested in the property you're at.
Yeah, I guess that sort of leads into flexibility. I think I'm experiencing buyer conversations at the moment where it's like my way or the highway, and price often is the thing from the vendor where they're saying, look, we're trying to get the most amount of money, but if you can offer up some flexible terms in that, we've got two different levers you can push and pull as a buyer and a seller. It's price and it's also terms. So again, it's really, really interesting to observe how some flexibility in terms is actually pulling together some really good deals. Again, another way you can look at sort of the power play of the negotiation.
Yeah, and it goes both ways. If you need a longer settlement, you factor it in by your price. If you can settle quicker, you could even factor it the other way around with your price, because it is very appealing to a vendor that needs to sell for any urgent reason if you can settle quicker than a standard 6 weeks.
Yeah. My three favorite, so I think that's covered off most of the...
That was the second point. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
think that, covers off most of the nitty gritty of the negotiations and sort of buyer conversations I'm having at the moment.
Yeah.
Just a few sort of questions I'm loving hearing buyers say at the moment. Again, this gives them the power play. If I bought this property tonight, what would stop the vendor signing tonight? What would make my offer stronger without increasing the price? That's such a good question. If you're already there at your top dollar as a buyer, you can't go anymore. Well, that's a great question to ask before you close out the negotiation.
Different branches to go off. I love that one.
Yeah. And if another buyer appears tomorrow, what advantage could I have today? So these are the questions I think as a buyer you can ask yourself, rather than every other question we're getting asked at the moment, which I just don't think it's getting good cut through.
No, it's not. There's some really generic questions happening, where there's a guide online which is very helpful to buyers, let's say at $2 million. And then there's the question of what takes the property off the market. And it's really such an open-ended question. I don't even think you'll have a straight response for yourself. The vendor has their price, it's their magic figure, and a lot of the time they don't actually tell anyone, but they do give us that guide, and that guide is really that's your starting point. And I don't like that question, what takes it off the market, especially if you haven't even put an offer forward
or seen the property yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, in summary for tonight, we're talking about do buyers have the power? I think the best buyers, they do, but it's not power as you may think it is. It's not power over the vendor. The vendor is the one that makes the final decision. I think it's power over the other buyers in the market.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're seeing things. They're acting with certainty. They're able to convey that in their delivery. And basically you're competing against a fellow buyer in the market, and I think the people that have got it smart and clued up, they're winning.
Yeah, and take it from a buyer right next to me here. Andy's on the other side as well, working on behalf of vendors. Those questions really do open up the conversations you want to have.
Yep.
So I think it's imperative, take note of some of the quotes and questions that were mentioned tonight. And I guarantee you that'll help you with any property you're looking at, interested in, or just your property search in general. They're the right questions to be asking, and it helps us, makes it easier for us, makes it easier for yourselves and for the vendor too.
Yep. So there you go.
It's
not the competition you think it is. It's
go.
not you versus the vendor. You actually both want the same outcome, believe it or not. One wants to buy, one wants to sell. We're here to broker it in the middle. You're here to compete against the remaining market and make life easy for yourself.
That's it. If you guys ever need anything, feel free to reach out. Come down to our office down in DY for a free coffee. And if you have any questions, let us know. We're always available here.
So
that concludes it, guys. I hope you have a lovely Monday night, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay.